So today we celebrate the feast of the Exaltation of the Cross, and typically it's a feast day that's celebrated during the week, but the feast falls on a Sunday this year, and so we celebrate it on a Sunday. And it really begs many questions, and there's so much theology and so much that has been written on the cross, because I think there's so many questions that come to mind when we think of the cross. But as I was reflecting on what the feast day may mean to me, I couldn't help but to think of the word exaltation. What does that mean? And to many people, I think it means many different things. But what really came to mind were the things that we celebrate as human beings. When somebody graduates from high school, or from college, or from graduate school, and when they're holding their diploma, very rarely will you actually see somebody who isn't smiling. Because in that moment, this is the culmination of all of their studies, the culmination of so much work. And they've received this diploma as a sign of how much they've worked over the years. The same goes for somebody who has just won some type of trophy or award for their athletic accomplishments. Just think of the last time you watched the Olympics and you see the Olympic podium. You have the bronze, the silver, as well as the gold medalists standing there on these blocks. And very rarely again will you find somebody who isn't smiling or isn't crying out of joy. Because again, here's a moment where they realize that this is the moment, this is the culmination of all of their work. All of their work has paid off for this very moment. So why do Christians exalt in something that was the most torturous way to die in the first century, the cross? Well, I think it's something for us really to ponder. So many people walk around with crosses around their necks, with rosaries in their pockets, or even crosses tattooed on their body somewhere. Because I think it's a symbol over the last 2,000 years that's been exalted, that has been praised, more so than any other symbol all around the world. You can think of the countless trophies you may have in your house, or the countless medals that you may have in your house. But I think the cross is something that is world-renowned, something that is exalted all around the world because of what it stands for. The cross is the symbol, the instrument of our salvation as human beings. Because our God came incarnate onto this earth so that we might have a chance to be with Him forever in heaven. Now I want you to think of the cross for a moment. When you think of a cross and you see the crucifix, you always see Jesus with His hands stretched out. And see, when you have a picture of Jesus with His hands stretched out, I can't help but to think of the time when I was younger. And when somebody would ask you, "How much do you love me?" Myself, as well as young children, might have said, "I love you this much," with our arms stretched out. And I think the same goes for Jesus Christ. If you see Jesus on that cross, we might think of the agony, the pain that He goes through. But in that very moment of realizing that His life's goal was finished, with His arms stretched out, He was saying to us, to each one of us, "I love you this much." And so this feast day of the Exaltation of the Holy Cross is really a celebration not only of our salvation, but it's a celebration of how much our God loves us. He loves us so much that He wanted to become part of our world. He ultimately died on the cross and rose from the dead just to show us how much He loves us and how much He wants to be with us. So on this feast day of the Exaltation of the Holy Cross, may we think about just how much our God loves us. And every time we see the crucifix, whether that's around our neck, on a rosary, or even tattooed on our body, let us remember that our remembrance of this feast day is a remembrance of how much our God loves us. And just as a young child will say, "I love you this much," so too do we remember that our God says, "I love you this much."